Good evening, Nick family. I'm your host, Stephanie. You can follow me if you want on Twitter at BKSteph33. We're on a different day today because I have a prior engagement scheduled for tomorrow. I appreciate all of you for joining us in the chat and those who will be watching us later. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification button so you'll be notified anytime a show or video goes live on this channel, Nothing But Knicks. That includes the Queen's Court, controversy, the crossover, the NBA report, and of course the pregame, postgame, in the morning shoot around with Simeon Russell, the creator of this channel. Again, appreciate you all. Knicks are currently 24-29, 12th in the Eastern Conference, 5.5 games out of the 6th seed, 1.5 games out of the 10th seed, which is that final play-in spot. I'm joined today by Tony Crow and G Fresh, and we're about to chop it up. But before I do that, I want to briefly go over last week's games so that you guys have some context, and ladies, some context to what we're going to talk about today. So really brief, Knicks played Sacramento at Madison Square Garden on Monday. They blew out Sacramento. We up by 20 in the third, up by 25 in the fourth, won by 20. The Knicks were flying around, really engaged, playing well on defense. Randle looked good to me, took good shots, passed out of the double teams, was being aggressive offensively, finished with 17 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. Saw some good things from Obi, like furthering my belief that he'll be more than a rim runner at some point. I believe he hit a few threes in this game, put the ball on the floor, finished at the rim. I think he's been listening to us content creators, those of us, including myself, who have said at one time that he's limited offensively. I think either he's watching or he has some friends watching, getting the information back to him. But anyway, Fournier was also aggressive offensively and defensively, 18 points, 4 3-pointers, and Burks came alive with 21 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Then we played Memphis. RJ started the game on Morant and did pretty well. Knicks played with a lot of energy, really showed up for this one, played with pace. Memphis is third in the Western Conference. John Morant is an all-star. And Jackson is having an all-star season, in my opinion, even though he wasn't selected. The Knicks only led once in this game, 1-0. However, they battled back multiple times to cut the lead to single digits. But Memphis always found a way to go on a run of their own. RJ played well on both ends of the floor. You're not going to stop Morant, right? But with RJ and with the Knicks defensive schemes, he had an inefficient night. I believe he was 9 for 27. RJ finished with 23 points, 4 rebounds, and a block. Fournier, 30 points, 7 threes. Randle, 18 points, 12 rebounds, 8 assists. Almost a triple-double, but it wasn't to be on that night where it seemed like every deflection, every turnover, the ball fell in Memphis' hands. And it didn't just fell in their hands. They passed it to somebody for 3, and they made it. They shot 41% from 3, by the way. Knicks lost by 12, but fought hard, in my opinion. Then on to the Lakers game last night, and that was a tale of two halves. We started out on a 9-0 run. We played with energy and pace and seemed to hit every three-pointer. Hold on here. Yeah, it seemed to hit every three-pointer. 9 assists in that first quarter. RJ with 17 points, Randle with 12. We were 42-29 after one quarter, 71-56 at the half. 21 and 20 points respectively for RJ and Randle. And the second half was a different story. Lakers came out, immediately cut the lead to 10-5. Malik Monk went amok, and I believe he had 17 points in the third quarter. Knicks were down 108-99 with a little over 2 minutes left in the fourth before going on a 13-3 run of their own with RJ, hitting that basket to force our overtime after LeBron's miss, but it wasn't to be. Knicks lost 115-122. And I forgot to, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, to click the slides as I was going along, but it's all good. I'm joined today by Tony Crow. Let's add him to the stream. I believe we may have another guest or two. But Tony, how are you doing? How's things going?
Peace, Queen. Oh man, that was a tough one last night. I can tell you that off jump. Um, I was down after the game. I also was tired, so my bad, Sim. I didn't make the post game, but
Yeah,
they fought hard. They just couldn't pull it away at the end, and it was tough. It's been a tough week, really, because
yeah,
the team has shown improvement. They look a lot better. They're just not squeaking those wins out, you know,
yeah,
and it's getting down to the wire.
yeah. We're 1-2 this week. Anything particular that stood out? I was hoping. I thought we could have been 2-1. I thought that Laker game was definitely gettable. I knew Memphis would be tough the way they were playing coming in, the way they've been playing all season, but the Lakers have been struggling. So I really thought that was one we could have gotten. Anything stand out for you?
I mean, I obviously RJ continuing his tear. What he averaged like 22 last month, and then he's starting this month off even better. So hopefully that continues, and he could establish his stuff as getting better and continuing to become who he's gonna become. Randall looks better, man, and I know there's still a lot of hate out there. A lot of people want him gone. He's looking better, and hopefully he could continue that. If two of our guys show up on a daily basis, we'll have a chance to win every game.
Yeah, no doubt.
If two of our guys just play to their potential, every game, and I'm not singling out any two, but if two of our guys show up and the team plays well, we could win any game.
Right.
So, but the time is now. I mean, we're running out of games.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Shout out to the chat. Pudge Nice, always rocking with us. Scott O, King Ribby RM, Juan Colos, Gebhardt Ruby, mouthful, but welcome. The listening party, Afro Jetty, Maximus, Gina Tilia, whatever that is. I appreciate you for joining us. I mean, I think what stood out for me, and you alluded to it, was Randall. Randall, um, Randall looked better. He looked better offensively. He looked better energy wise. In terms of just being engaged for longer periods of the game, pretty much for most of the game. And I'll tell you, watching him in that Laker game, you get an opportunity to see what could be if he shows up each and every night. And this was the second game. We'll talk about this more later, where both him and RJ played well together. That's a good recipe for a team. But it's about what you said, and a lot of the fans talk about consistency. Is that something we can expect every game? Not 30 points, obviously, but in terms of them playing well off of each other, both of them showing up, both of them being engaged. I think we have more confidence in RJ, at least I do at this point, than Randall. But the past 3 games, I noticed he's been back on track energetically, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And another thing that stood out, and Tibbs, he's been talking about it since he's been here, playing
Mhm.
48 minutes, and
Right.
we got to figure out how to stay consistent with the ball movement, because that third quarter, that's what killed us. A lot of ISO,
Right.
the ball movement stopped completely, and when we play as a team, again, when we play as a team, we can beat anybody.
Yeah.
We could beat anybody, but these lapses are killing us, and I don't know what can change that.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about the Lakers game, right?
Particularly, yeah.
Yeah. I thought that first half, I didn't even know who that team was. I didn't know who that team was. They were playing with pace. I mean, like really pushing the ball up the court, hitting the threes, moving the ball around. I was like, I don't know who this is, but I'll take it. We had 9 assists in the first half, in
Mm-hmm.
the first quarter, in the first quarter. So I wasn't sure we would be able to keep that up in terms of the shooting, but I would have liked to have seen, like you talked about, us still continuing to push that pace. Still continuing to push the pace, continuing to move the ball around. The shots may not fall like they was falling in the first half, but I still would have liked to have seen that. But I think the Lakers had a lot to do with it. Something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. they had something to do with it. I will say, in terms of another thing that stood out to me, I thought Randle rested too long. Now, granted, he did play like it seemed like every minute for the first 3 quarters. It seemed like, so I guess they had to give him some rest. But it seemed like he rested for like most of the fourth quarter. Am I wrong? To like the 6 minute mark or something like that. I just felt like, you know, I don't know. I would have liked to have seen him back in the game sooner.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And I thought for once, it doesn't happen often. It's happened a few times. The starters played better than the bench. You know, I thought the starters played better than the bench. I remember when the bench came in, whatever lead we had dwindled a little bit. The starters came back in, it went back up. But for the most part, I think the starters played probably much more minutes than usual. Did you get that sense?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, because the bench
they had it rolling finally.
Yeah, they did. They did. And then even, particularly the Laker game, Mitch and RJ, I think, was out there playing with the bench.
Mhm.
Right. So that was a little different. I have seen it before. But that was a little different. Glenn Costin, I thought I was in the Twilight Zone. Yeah.
In that first half, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. The Lakers had 8 turnovers in the first half and missed a ton of shots. That helped with our pace. Yeah, I mean, but I've seen the Knicks play play faster, slower, even with the other teams. So if we could just get the link to G Fresh, I think he said he tried twice, and the links he had aren't working. All right. Anything else about this particular week? Sacramento, Memphis, the Lakers that stood out for you before we?
I mean, the Memphis game, obviously, Ja Morant went off. It's like you see his highlights, you watch some of the highlights, and you get a sense of how good he is. But until you like really watching him for a full length game, I'm amazed at how good that young kid is. You know, I wish we could have had him. Not saying I don't like RJ, but I that's what we need, a young, dynamic point guard who is the future of the team. And that kid is phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this with RJ. I think it was I forgot who made the comment last night that RJ is only going, not just necessarily that he was only going to his left. I think it was that he was going to his left and you couldn't stop it, basically. And I think about Morant, like a lot of people talk about how Morant can't really hit the three, but what he can do, which is get into the paint, finish at the paint, he's doing that at an elite level. And then if that jump shot ever, that 3-pointer ever, if he's ever able to hit a 3-pointer or hit consistently, he's going to go to another level. He's good already. And I think it's the same thing with RJ. RJ is getting very depth, that he's just very good, almost elite at lately anyway, scoring with his left hand. He's getting better with the right, but almost at an elite level with his left. If he can ever get average to above average with that right hand, being able to score either way, he's going to take his game, to another level. And sometimes that's what happens. Everybody has their pet moves, the things they like to do. You know it, but you can't stop it. And I think that's where RJ is. Everyone knows RJ wants to go left. You think that's not on the scouting report? Right? But he's still getting to his spots and he's still scoring with that left, which lets me know that, he's on another level, right now. And if that right hand ever becomes close to that, we're looking at a different player. Look what he's doing now.
My question is, at what age or at what point does it become, all right, you can't teach your old dog new tricks? Now, obviously, he's 21 now, so I would say he still has time. But people make that same argument for Randle, who's what, 27, 28? You know what I mean? And it's like, all right, he hasn't developed that right hand yet, or hasn't developed that right hand. Can he still? So I don't know if my
That's a good
question is
point.
for Randle per se, or like RJ being 21, does he have time still to develop that?
I think so. If RJ is 26, 27, and he hasn't developed the right hand, then I would say that that's what it's going to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he clearly sees, I'm sure, and those who are working with his development clearly sees that that's going to really open up his game, right? If 5 years from now he hasn't done it, then I think that that's just where, that's where he's going to be.
So like with Randle, you would say like it's a lost cause. He's not going to develop that. I mean,
Well, if it,
you know what I'm saying?
yeah, I understand, but I think with Randall it's a little different, because I think with Randall we're talking about not necessarily a particular aspect of his game, like being able to shoot with the right, being able to shoot with the left. At least that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being able to lead, being consistent, showing up energetically. I don't know. Like they say, he's always been an emotional person. This is a little different. This is hitting a little different than 2 years ago. And I'm not talking about his game. I'm just talking about his energy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I just wasn't paying attention. Do you think that this emotional Randall has always been that way on this level?
I do. I think the difference is success. I think has he been acting the same exact way this year, but we got 10 more wins, I don't think it becomes an issue. I don't think it gets talked about as much. I think it actually gets championed. Oh, this guy's passionate. He loves the scene. You know what I mean? Like he But when it's losing and you see this, now it's like, oh, he's too emotional. He's not built for this. You know what I mean? I think he's fine. Like, you gotta let guys be who they are. There's guys throughout the league over the years that have been just as, if not more, emotional, passionate, and sometimes it gets a bad rap. Sometimes it gets championed. But ultimately, I think it's based off the wins. You know,
Right.
if we got 10 more wins, he's looked at differently.
Right. That he's just being emotional. But listen, let me split it up.
Like passionate versus
Passionate.
emotional.
Right. Okay. Right. So let me split it up. I think the emotional, passionate, however you want to name it, will always be there. I'm talking about the not playing hard because things aren't going your way. I see that as something different than learning how to shoot with your right hand. I think that that's something. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, I think that that's something he can continue to work on and get better at. I don't think that that's something that is just there, and it can't change. So, yeah, I think that's there. But as far as the right hand, RJ, I need to see that next year. I don't think that needs 2, 3, 4 years. I think I need to see that. I need to see that next year. Air Force UPS-1, Randle is not a number one, Queen. We've been saying that forever. I think that's settled. I think we all know that. I think the question is, can he be one person on a team? And if we bring other people in around him.
You know what, Queen, though, I really, and I'm not referring to you, Air Force, but I hate that comment, because he's our number one. So it don't matter if, you know what I mean, if you say, oh, he can't be the number one on a championship team. He's our number one. So we gotta deal with that and live with that. And you know what I mean? Like,
I understand, but do you? I mean, people would. I wouldn't, but there would be a number of Knicks fans who would argue that right now, the way RJ is playing, he's the number one on this team, not in general, just on this team.
Hey, I think RJ could be the he could be our leading scorer and not be the number one guy, not be you know what I mean? Because he's at this stage of his career, he can't produce the numbers that Randle could produce across the board. You know what I mean? RJ's not going to give you 12, 14 rebounds on a given night. His assists are up, but he's not averaging 5 or better assists per game. So this is what I mean. RJ, he could be the scorer. You know what I mean? But he still has a ways to go to reach number one option or best guy on a team status, in my opinion. Can he get there? Absolutely.
Right.
But he's not there yet. You know what I mean? It's going to take some time. Don't rush it. Let it
marinate.
Yeah, let it come organically.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. But I would say that only reason I think, like you said, eventually it will come. But I like to see a huge sample size before I start talking about somebody is the number one on a team. You know, I want to see them go through a season where people are game planning for them, you know, and they still coming through, you know? All right. We have a caller on the line.
Yeah.
All right. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from? Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello?
Yes.
Caller, what's your name? You just got to turn it down.
Yeah, can you turn down your volume in the back?
You can hear me now?
Yes. What's your name and where you calling from?
Cheyenne?
You're on. Okay.
We lost
we'll get the we'll get the caller back. Sim is back behind the scenes, ladies and gentlemen. So now we could take calls and everything. So if you want to call in, for sure, definitely call in. I just like to see a larger sample size, but I just want to address this real quick before we move on. But why do they need a right hand? Is basketball a right hand only sports? What are you guys talking about? You need both hands, right? So if you're a left-handed player, you should develop your right hand. If you're a right-handed player, you should develop your left hand. If you can score with both hands, if you're just as effective going to your right as you are going to your left, you're going to be harder to guard. You're going to be a better basketball player. There's more that opens up for you. If you can only score with one hand, you're limited. You're a limited basketball player, you know? Yeah, so that's why I think that he should develop the right hand just so that he could be better. He's good now, but if you could score with either hand, you're much better. Yeah. All right. Let me see. Caller, are you back?
Yes.
All right. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Cheyenne, calling from Atlanta.
Okay. What you got for us today?
None. I was just seeing what y'all talking about and adding on from my opinion.
All right. Okay. Well, we were talking a little bit about Randle and a little bit about RJ. You got anything to say about either of those players?
Yeah. I can say this. RJ, he can be our leading scorer for this year. He can carry us, but I don't see us getting Russell. But I see we have to get another player so we can have somebody, because Julius is not just not better this year like he was last year. So
that's the truth. So let me ask you, do you want to keep RJ and Randle and bring somebody else in to help them, or would you want to trade Randle?
Keep Randle.
Okay, so you want to keep Randle and RJ?
Yeah.
Okay, but you think they need some help?
Yes.
I would agree with you. they need some help. Anything else you want to share with us about the team?
No.
All right, what's your name again?
Tyon?
Tyon.
Tyon, I appreciate you calling into the Queen's Court. Be sure to call back again, okay?
Okay.
All right, take care of yourself.
Great call.
Look at that. That was a great call. Now look at that. We got young Knick fans that don't want to give up on Randle, feel like Randle and RJ together is okay. We just need to add pieces around them. What was that?
So that was Randle's son.
Somebody else said he's too young to understand. All right. I mean, we're talking a lot about Randle. Let's just let's just get to it. Matter of fact, let's just pull this up. Randle is the Thrive Fantasy Play of the Week. So we'll use this as a backdrop to the conversation we're about to have. If you haven't already, please go to thrivefantasy.com, use the code MBK, get 100% deposit match up to $100. So Randle is a Thrive Fantasy Play of the Week. This past week, he averaged 22.3 points, 12.3 rebounds, 6.7 assists, shot 46.3% from the field, only 30.8% from the three-point line, and shot 76.5% from the field. Salute Randle, Thrive Fantasy Player of the Week. And I said that the first game, I think it was a Sacramento game, I noticed a shift in his energy and just how he was playing. So this is the question I have for you. This is the second game and it could have been more, that I thought that RJ and Randle played very well together. And also he seemed to be playing with a bit more energy this particular week. Does this make you pause? And I'm asked this for the chat. I think I already know Tony's answer. So this is for the chat as well. Does this make you pause on trading Randle when you see how well these two can play together when Randle is engaged and playing hard, which he has been this past week? Does that make you pause on trading him? And the chat, I'm interested in what you have to say as well.
You want me to lead, or we waiting for?
You can lead.
Yeah, I mean, you knew my response though. I never wanted to really trade Randle. I think, first off, let me start by I think trading him puts a negative stigma on the Knicks. Guy willing to come here, wanting to kind of change the culture here, gets 2 years, 3 years, and then you, or 2.5 years, 3 years, whatever, and then you let him go, you trade him. I think other guys may be thinking or weighing their options about coming here. Why would they, knowing that a down year could be you're out? You know what I mean? Like they're not gonna ride with you, especially, after giving him the extension. I think once you gave him that extension, I'm not saying untradeable, but let him fight through it. Let him learn and develop. If he has another down year next year, then it's more feasible to me to let him go. And I don't think his value is at its highest. So if you're gonna move somebody, move him when his value is at its highest, not when it's at at its lowest. And then just to continue, are we gonna get someone better in the trade? Because if you're not, or if you're making a lateral move, why? Like it doesn't help us grow. If a lateral move, we're gonna be the same, and if it's not a better player, we're gonna be worse. So unless we're winning the trade by far, I don't think it's even a thought in my mind to pursue that.
The only thing I would say, and I'm a huge Randle fan, but it got to a point where I was okay with trading him. And it wasn't because of his game, because I hear what you're saying. Somebody is struggling on the court and you trade him. What message does that send? Like we not riding with you. We only going to ride with you when you're shooting well and when you're very efficient. And when you're not efficient, we off that train and we're going to flip you. I don't think it was that. I think it was more about how he was out there, that he didn't seem engaged, like he was taking plays off, like he wasn't playing 48 minutes. It was those sorts of things that made me pause and think, not about his game, but pause and think. I mean, I knew he was struggling. Is this guy, is this getting to him? Is the pressure of playing in New York getting to him? Is the expectations getting to him? Are the fans getting to him to the point where he shook a little bit and not able to drown all of that out and focus on his game? And I was like, if he can't do that in New York, then we should trade him because he's not going to make it here. Right now, seeing him this past week made me think, oh, hold up. Maybe somebody spoke to him. Maybe he came to an aha moment himself. Maybe, he needed to get himself together and now he's able to block it out, because that's my issue with Randle. He's inefficient. He's inefficient. I'm not going to trade you for that. I know we need more. Don't get me wrong. So if he's back energetic wise, if he's back for 48 minutes, if he's back hustling the way he ran down and blocked that shot last night, I'm all in on Randle. Is he a number one? No. A championship team. Is he our number one? I'm going to still say yes, because as well as RJ is playing, he's just now getting attention from opposing scouting reports. And I want to see, how he responds to it. So I need a larger sample size before I say RJ is the number one play on this team, because teams are still game planning for Randle. And I think a little bit RJ now, more RJ, not even a little bit more RJ at this point. So now, no, I think that we can work with RJ and Randle, and we need to add something around him. I would love to see Randle with a point guard. I would love to see Randle with a point guard on this team. Okay, let's see what the chat is saying. Khalid. Oh, do we have another call? All right, caller, give me a minute. He's too inconsistent.
No problem.
Randle was mental. And he saw Buddha now. He's not that smart. Even if we had a point guard, the ball will still run through Randle. He is the number one. Mitch and Obi would be awesome with a one. All right, so the trade boy, the chat seems to be split on whether or not they would pause given his play of the past week. Caller, you're on the air. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Queen AJ from Brooklyn. Salute to you. Salute to the panel.
Salute
AJ. To the chat. A couple of things I want to say. First, I want to talk about this nonsense about the left hand, this Stephen A. garbage that we all buying into. Listen, Jordan couldn't shoot with his right hand. Okay, he could make a layup. or he could block a shot, but so can Randle and RJ. They could use their right hand if they're under the basket. But you wouldn't see Jordan at the foul line shooting a free throw with his left hand. Okay, they have a predominant hand, and they have the second hand. They don't need to develop it. RJ can go right. I mean, we've seen him do this time and time again. Please don't listen to Stephen A. Stephen A. doesn't know.
This is not about Stephen A. though. This is not about Stephen A. I watch the Knicks just like you every game. RJ is not as strong going right as he is going left. And let me just finish. I just want to make one point. I'm not gonna cut you off. He's not as strong going right. He makes it his business to get to the left side of the court, even when he's on the right, and he can just continue on the right and lay it up with his right hand. He will bring it back out so that he could get the space and go left. I'm not criticizing that. I think that's great that everyone knows you're going left and you are going left and you're still able to hit the shot. But if he's able to drive right and finish right, it opens up his game. So for me, I had forgot all about Stephen A. This was just about what I'm seeing. But go ahead, continue.
But he has done that, and more, especially RJ. RJ has been driving right and finishing with his right hand, like a lot. He's done that a lot this season.
Equally
Julius
as well, you
Randle,
think?
probably a little less. You know. But
Okay.
and speaking of Julius Randle, Knick Nation, they want to trade Julius for De'Aaron. That would be a terrible mistake. This is what we got to understand.
Why
right?
so?
To keep winning, you need a number one, a number two, a number three, and then pretty good 4 and 5, right? We just so happen to have number 2 and number 3 before we got number 1. We just got to keep looking for that number 1. If you get rid of number 2 or number 3, then you go to now you're going to have number 1 and a number 2 and then a big gap in between. You're never going to be able to win that way. Okay, we got to understand Julius Randle and RJ Barrett are number 2 and number 3. Depending on the night, one could be 2. Julius could be 2, RJ 3, or RJ 2, Julius 3. Depends on the night. If you have a steady number 1 with those 2 guys, and you have a Mitch, okay, and Evan Fournier, which everybody want to get out of town. Evan Fournier was a great basketball move based on what we had last year. The way we ended last year, getting Evan Fournier was exactly the right move to make to get him to replace. First of all, they didn't want to get rid of Reggie Bullock. I don't know if you guys know that. Reggie Bullock didn't want to stay here for 2 years plus a team option. That's why he left. But the Knicks really wanted to get rid of Alec Burks, keep Bullock, and add Fournier. That's what they wanted to do. But the players didn't want. What did we want the front office to do? They did the best they could have with the hand they were dealt. Fournier is great for what we have right now. If Julius Randle is playing the way he played last year, we would be explosive with Evan Fournier at the 2. Kemba Walker's got to go. He didn't pan out to be what it was, but Kemba Walker wasn't the plan. He just fell in our lap. We didn't go. It just so happens that we have Kemba Walker, but he was not part of the plan. They didn't go into the offseason and say we're going to go get Kemba Walker because he's going to make a difference. Okay, so we need to analyze these things for what they are. Okay,
I agree with you.
I'm going to hang up and I'm going to listen to you.
Sure. Appreciate you calling in.
Thank you.
I mean, you're welcome. We're going to talk about the front office later. I mean, I think what the caller brought up is the problem that I have, that Kemba or no point guard was the plan. I mean, that to me was the number one problem. And I agree with him. If you go back to where we were last year and you think about Fournier, you would think that okay, that's okay. We're going to give up a little bit of defense, but what he's able to bring offensively is going to really help us. So I can kind of see the Knicks thinking that. But the fact that they didn't have a point guard in mind to open the free agency is a problem for me. What you were going to say?
Exactly what you said. If everything he said is right, then the Knicks dropped the ball, because I want to believe that Kemba was the plan. You know what I mean? Because then that means at least they were doing their job. They were doing their due diligence. They knew what we lacked, and it was, maybe it was on a hush because he was under contract. But I think Kemba was the plan. We could get him for a portion of what his contract is and fill a void. Now, if Kemba wasn't the plan and he fell in our laps, the Knicks dropped the ball 100% because our biggest need was a point guard. Our biggest need over the last 20 years or so is a point guard. So I hope he's wrong, this caller, and I hope that there was some behind the scenes things going on where they was like, all right, he's working on a buyout. He'll come here for a certain amount of money. Let's save that amount of money so that when that buyout goes through, we could pursue him. Because like you said, if he wasn't the plan, what were we gonna do at point guard? If he just happened to fall in our lap, so let's say he didn't, where would we be right now? You know what I mean? And not saying where would we be right now as far as the team, because Kemba obviously hasn't panned out, but where would we have been without Kemba running the point? Burks starting the year, or Emmanuel. I don't know where we would be. Would Rose start? So I hope he's wrong.
Yeah, I'm hesitant whether I should, because this is something that I want to talk about, the front office, and everybody thinking how great the front office has been. I say the jury is out, but I just want to make sure there isn't anything left to talk about in terms of Randle. Anybody else want to talk about whether or not whether this past week of Randle's play gave you pause? If you want to talk about that, please call in or talk about it in the chat, or whether you think we should continue to go on with the trade if the Knicks were even looking to trade him in the first place. I say pause if they were considering it. Tony, I know you say pause if you were considering it. And I think the chat has been a bit split. I think if we got the Randle we got this week for all year, we would definitely be in a different place. And if we get him for the rest of the season, I'm not sure how far we would be able to go, but I'm not sure that's because of him. I just think the roster right now is just not constructed well without having a point, a point guard. So we will see. But that's the question I have. Let's talk about the front office since the caller alluded to it. Good segue. I say the jury is still out on the front office. And I know there's some, shout out to Josh, who feels like the front office has done a great job. And others also on Twitter who think the front office has done a great job. I just feel like just because you're not as bad as prior front offices doesn't make you good. Just because prior front offices were atrocious and just giving out first round picks like Oprah was giving out cars, and you're not doing that, doesn't mean you're a great front office. So I see what they're doing in terms of collecting assets, and I appreciate that. I see what they're doing in terms of being smart, and I appreciate that. But to me, the jury is still out. Okay, Danny Ainge and the Boston Celtics had a lot of assets. They never cashed them in for anything. You know what I mean? So you collecting assets, what does that mean? I'm going to know that the Knicks front office is a really good front office when we have a championship contending team, because that's what they brought them here for, right? That's when I'll know we have a good front office, when they make a move and it doesn't even have to be a blockbuster move. It could just be assembling a team where there isn't really a superstar, but the team itself, when you put them together, they're a very good, possibly championship contending team. Then I'll be able to say this is a good front office. Bringing in Kemba was not a good move. I don't even care if you planned for it. Why would you plan for that, knowing his injuries like that? You going into the free agency with cap space, draft picks, young players. You come out and with point guard, in my opinion, being your most glaring need, and they may have, obviously they disagreed. And you come out of that with 2 point guards backing each other up that both have the potential to get injured and derail your season. Now, if they don't get injured, you have a great season. But if they do, your season is derailed. Why would you even take that chance? So for me, they're not as bad as the front offices we've had, but I need to see more from this front office before I start getting kudos because they're collecting assets. Your thoughts?
Let me ask you real quick.
Mhm.
If you had to give them a grade, what would the grade be?
So far, C plus, B minus for not making mistakes, mistakes, but and for drafting well. B minus.
Yeah.
All right, B minus because
Yeah,
they drafted well. They turned the culture around. I get it. I'm just saying it's incomplete. The jury is still out before.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because that's where I grade them. I grade them around a B. You know, B minus will probably be the lowest. I wouldn't go lower than that. So I think they've done a solid job. And then you got to look. I'm looking at it from like all different aspects. So you're talking about guys that it's not like they came from a front office job somewhere else and had a reputation or had experience in this position, in these positions.
Mhm.
So for me, you know, that gives them an extra notch right there, because you would not even saying you would think, but the possibility of them coming in not knowing the job and actually making some huge or some big mistakes, and they didn't do that. You know what I mean? Every even the Kemba move, which in hindsight and credit to you, because you wasn't for it from the beginning, you know, but
Yeah.
we all knew that if it worked, it would be phenomenal.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I see the chance that they took there. It was a low risk, high reward kind of situation.
Low
Obviously,
risk though, Tony? You think it was
I mean,
low risk?
I,
Financially, it was low risk.
financially, it's only 2 years. I think if we're not able to move them now, I think next year it's more likely that we can move them in the final year of a contract. So these are the moves that they've made. They're not gonna haunt us for years to come. You know what I mean? It's not something like they put us in a position where it's like, oh man, how are we gonna get out of this? We're stuck with this for the next 5 years or whatever the case. So like that's what I mean. The risk was low. You know what I mean? Like, so I like what they're doing. I like what they're doing, especially coming off of no experience, because you know, you come into a new position, you're gonna make some mistakes. We haven't made the huge ones yet, so
Right.
I give them a solid B for everything they've done overall.
Before we get to the call, I just want to make this point. I agree with you. I do think it was low risk financially, but I think it was high risk in terms of the success of the team. Like it was one of those where if he hits and be close to Charlotte, and I remember saying this, we talking about maybe a third, fourth seed again. But if he doesn't hit, we're talking about, you know, if he doesn't hit and nobody else pops, because it's not all on him, you know, and he gets injured and he's not available, and Rose gets injured and he's not available, that's a big risk in terms of the success of the team. That being said, it's not just on Kemba where we are, right? Randall hasn't been playing well. Fournier, he's been up and down. RJ is just now coming in his own, like January, February. Before that, you know, he wasn't. Mitch had injury issues. So this is not where we are now, is just not on Kemba. There's a lot going on. Caller, thank you for joining the Queen's Court. What's your name and where you're calling from?
Manny from Flushing.
Hello, Manny. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning. I just woke up, man. I just had a big breakfast. I was still just frustrated last night. It's not like I praised the Randle and Barrett. It's just that the fact that we lost, because I felt bad for RJ Barrett. He had a career night. Then all of a sudden, a loss on national television, ABC. It is frustrating. I just can't. I just can't. You just can't make this stuff up.
Yeah. What's your overall thoughts on the Knicks this season? Disappointed, or this is what you expected?
Well, I don't want to say this is expected because I think it's because I don't think I think it's we just didn't know how how frustrated it would be. But I'm still not giving up hope. Even though that we've still got a lot of overall 29 games left. But I just hope that in the next week we gotta spark something, okay? Like we need something like they could spark us, a trade or whatever. And look, I know that people want about the Randle thing. Listen, I just hope that Randle is happy. He's been frustrated, all that stuff. If he gets traded, that's okay. But it's hard for me to trade a guy that leads his team in scoring, rebounding, as well as assists. The way he plays, at times he's the number one option, but deep down he's somewhat a third option. RJ Barrett, he needs listen, at the end of the day, we need a point guard big time. Hopefully the trade deadline would get something. And listen, I wish my brother Kemba Walker nothing but the best. But let's be fair, he's not the same player that he used to be. I wish that he didn't have those injuries. If he didn't have those injuries, I think record-wise, Knicks would have been at least a little bit better. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, thanks, guys, and keep up the good work.
All right, feel better. Don't let the Knicks get you too down. Feel better, okay?
Don't worry, they will bounce back. I promise.
Okay. All right. Wow.
Hope so.
All right, we still got some confident Knicks fans out there, but yeah, he said he's very disappointed. Um, very disappointed with the loss. Let's see what the chat is saying. May 4th, Kimba was never the plan. He became available and we took a chance. You win some, you lose some. Yeah. I just think you take chances when you need to take chances and when you don't have a choice. But I hear you. Yes, Quentin DeCowles, Kimba didn't score against the Grizzlies and he still started. Yeah, I think at this point, Tibbs is just sticking to a lineup. And I think Kimba is in that Elfrid Payton role where he starts. If he plays well, he gets extended minutes. And if he doesn't, he comes out. The Knicks were playing very well in that first quarter. And I believe Kimba played pretty much the entire first quarter, no?
Yeah. I think RJ was the first guy out, even though he had such a great quarter. But I think that was because Tibbs knew he was starting that second half with RJ. So give him a quick rest, bring him back with the second unit.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Which I actually love that move by Tibbs. So, most people be like, oh, "Why are you taking RJ out? He got 17 in the first quarter," but he knew he was coming right back in with the second unit to start the second quarter.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna go over next week's game. I read this tweet and I was just interested in your thoughts and the chat thoughts on this. This is from Keith Smith. He has a YouTube show called The Front Office Show, and his tweet said Jeremy Grant is like a better defending, thinner Julius Randle. Same questionable shot selection from both guys. You agree with that?
I think he can be. He could be. I could see the comparison. I actually said that last year when they both were in the runnings for the most improved. But yeah, different body types, but definitely similar games. I think Randle has become way better of a facilitator than we've seen from Grant. I think Grant might be a little, better of a defender, but Randle has that potential as well. So yeah, I could definitely see that.
Okay.
I could also see a potential swap. I'm not saying I would want this, but I could see a swap and it actually potentially working better for us as a team.
You think
But
so? I mean, the thing about Randle is a alpha personality. Like he has that dogged in him. But if it's not under control, it's he's pouting, he's all over the place. But when it's focused and when it's under control, he's a pretty dynamic player. That's the only thing about Grant is just that alpha part.
yeah. Grant, I feel like Grant is more of a role player type of guy that could give you the numbers. But again, I don't want this to sound like Randall hate because I'm one of the supporters. But Grant has more versatility. So he doesn't have to be the guy. He could actually just come in and play his game, play his role. Like if we had him, he wouldn't be the number one option as Randall is for our team. But I think maybe the team dynamic might be better. You know what I mean?
I do.
Because of that.
Yeah.
But
I do.
that's neither here nor there. We got our guy.
We got our guy.
I think Grant is a guy that could potentially come in with the Randall and fit. You know what I mean? Like that's what I mean. Like he doesn't have to be the guy. He could play a role.
Right. You bring up a good point, and somebody said this in one of the shows in the chat. I remember reading it. What you're talking about for Grant, if Grant was on his team instead of Randall, how he would just be a role player, he would be in his set role. That's what a lot of players, fans, and myself feel for Randall. That if Randall could just play in that point guard role, but it just came to me. He's such an alpha personality. He believes that whether we agree or not, he believes he's bigger than just that. He believes he's a number one, I think. And it's going to be hard to get him to just play a role. Let's see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Knicks bring in an alpha point guard, bring in an alpha number one player, and Randall just goes to that traditional point guard role and is happy with it. But just given his personality, I'm not so sure we would be able to like bring him back to that. Go ahead. You were going to say something?
No, I agree 100%. That's why I feel like it's a risk going after like the Brunsons and these guys that the trajectory is up, but is Randall gonna take a step back and let these guys lead? You know what I mean? Like that's why I think we need. Oh man, I'm giving away a little bit of my content for my next show, but but that's why I think we need a championship point guard. And when I say that, I mean like the Rondos, the Larrys, somebody who has the experience and won it already. Because now you can't take that away from them. Randall, you could be the best player, but you can't take this away from me. I've been to the mountaintop already. I know what we got to do to get over the hump. I know what we got to do to become a perennial playoff team and aspirations to win a chip. I've been through the fire already. We don't have anybody like that, and that's what's really killing us because you need somebody to teach you how to win. You know what I mean? Who's been through it already, and that's the only guy that can come in and put Randall in his place. Or Randall could be like, you know what, this guy already did it. I can listen to what he's telling me to learn how to become a championship team. we don't have that. So he's just learning on the fly. He's like, I'm the best guy on the team. I won most improved. Like, so it's on me. But
Right.
we need, especially at that point guard position, somebody who's been there that could kind of just direct guys. All right, I've been through this situation before. This is how we handle this. All right,
Right.
I you know what I mean. So that's what we really really need.
Yeah. And I think it may not have even been the most improved. I think it was the second team all NBA. Like, because that is I think harder
Mm-hmm.
to get. And I think that that's a more, in my opinion, a more prestigious um award,
100%.
I'm a second team all NBA. So mm,
And all star on top of it as well.
and an all-star.
Like because you would say most improved, all star, all NBA.
Right,
You know what I mean? As I go on, the categories
right,
get higher in stature. So
right.
I agree.
Yeah, and you know what? I kind of like that. I just wish he was harnessing it better, but I like that mentality. I like for a player. Teran Mosley said Randall is delusional. So just kind of cut underneath what I'm about to say. But I like a player who thinks like that. I like a player who thinks, yeah, that wasn't a fluke. That's basically who I am, because that's how he operates. We see him turning the ball over. We see him making bad decisions. We see him thinking too much, and we're like, "Yo, you need to dial that back." So maybe he is delusional, um, Teron or Terran Mosley, because I think in his mind he believes that he is one of the best players in the NBA. Many of us will disagree with that, but I think in his mind, that's what he thinks he is. I just wish somebody would kind of talk to him about what that means, not just in terms of his game, but what does that mean in terms of leadership? What does that mean in terms of approach to a game in and game out?
Hmm.
You know, even when things are not going well.
But part of that goes
Mhm.
back to what I was just saying. He needs
Yeah,
somebody who's been there before.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Because otherwise, you got to take it how it is. Because
yeah.
it's a learning process for him. He's never
Yeah.
been here before. He's
Mhm.
never you know what I mean? Like, so either you live with his growth, his development, his mistakes, or you bring somebody that can kind of coach him through it on the floor, kind of groom him to become who he thinks he is. You know what I mean? Otherwise, it's still a learning process. Regard,
Right.
you know what I mean? Because he's never been here before. And,
Yeah.
and to his credit, I'm looking forward to next year's Randall, because we've seen what he does after a bad season. We've seen how he bounces back. So that's what I'm really really looking forward to. Who can Randall become after this turmoil, after this tough season? Can
I
he
mean,
come back and do what he did in year 2 and year 4?
right. We'll see. In all fairness, we did say that after he didn't play well in the playoffs, that we were looking to see, which Randall showed up this season. Um, and I wonder, a lot of people talk about us missing Woodson in terms of offense. I'm not so sure about that, because I just remember Woodson when Carmelo was here, and that offense was not diverse at all. It was pass the ball into
Mm,
Carmelo and let him do his thing. But where I think Woodson would help is, and I think that's why one of the reasons they brought him in anyway, is to kind of run interference between Tibbs, just knowing that Tibbs' style can get grating and it could wear thin on people, and having somebody in that like Woodson that can go behind and talk to a player after Tibbs then tore him down, right?
mm-hmm.
I wonder,
Build him back up.
build him back up. I wonder, would Randall have, I don't even know if he's right at the ship. I hope so. It looks that way. Um, would he have been there? Would Randall have not even gotten this far? Would he have, pulled his coattails as to how he needs to show up, as a leader on this team in terms of his effort? I wonder if we're missing him that way more than his contributions on offense.
I'll take it a step further. I think Woodson's role would have been the exact opposite of Tibbs, just like you said. But I'll go a step further because I feel like Tibbs kind of coddles Randle at times. So I think for Woodson, he could have been the guy to get on Randle when
Mm,
when Tibbs is coddling him, and then maybe the rest of the team Tibbs is going at, and then Woodson could be like, all right, let me build you these guys back up. But
right.
for Randle, it could have been just the opposite. It could have been Tibbs coddling him, and Woodson being like, all right, listen, this is what you got to do. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right.
Like
That's a
Woodson
good
being the
point.
guy to get on him because
Right.
I feel like, and a lot of guys do, a lot of fans do. Randle has probably been held the least accountable
No
from
doubt about it.
from Tibbs. You know what I mean? So I think Woodson's role with that was he was the enforcer for Randle, where Tibbs he kind of learned his lessons from his interactions with Cat and some of the plays in the past. Like, all right, I gotta kind of be a little softer on Randle. He's the guy for us, but let Woodson get in his ear. I'll say. Instead of the other word.
Yeah, that he can hold them more accountable. And I wonder why Tibbs hasn't. And I'm not even talking about where everybody can see.
Hmm.
Like when that was that timeout and he was away from the timeout. I'm not talking about like putting a spotlight on it and calling him out on national TV, but even behind the scenes, just talking to him about what does it take other than just basketball, your game, um, to be more effective. And maybe he has. Somebody pointed out, I forgot where I read it, and that was the first time I heard that there may be some rift between Tibbs and Tibbs and Randall. I've never heard that um, before, and they were saying that a trade might be good and it might correct a few things, including this growing. I'm paraphrasing, growing rift between RJ. Excuse me, Randall and Tibbs, and that was the first I've heard of that. Um, so yeah. All right, let's look at anything else before we look ahead to next week's games.
No, we could get right into it. I gotta get going soon anyway. So
All right. All right. So tomorrow, Monday, we play Utah, 32-21, which is fourth in the Western Conference. We we played them. We played them this season, 0-1. They're offensively, they're ranked one. They're ranked one in the league. Defensively, they're 14th, and their net rating is third. So per 100 possessions, they are averaging 115.6 points per game. And defensively, they're holding teams to 109.5 points per game. So they're winning by an average of 6.1 points per game per 100 possessions, which is third in the league, right? Which is third in the league. Then we're off to Denver. Now, this was a game. Oh, sorry about that. This was a game that I would think the Knicks would win. So Denver is 28-24. They're sixth in the conference. They've lost their last three. Over the last 10, they're 6-4. We haven't played them this season. Their offensive rank is 11. Their defensive rank is 7, and their net rating um, is 13th. So they are winning by like 1.4 points, per 100 possessions. And that's kind of on par with the Knicks, right? Who are actually 12th in defensive rating right now. The Knicks are 12th on the season in defensive rating. Wow. But 24th in offensive rating, negative 1.4, right? So the Knicks are basically holding teams to 109.4 points, but we're only scoring 108, right? So that's kind of close with Denver. But once you throw in The altitude in Denver, once you throw in the back to back, right? Playing in Utah, then playing in Denver. I don't know about the Knicks in that game. Then on to Golden State, who we lost to in the Garden already. They're 40-13, second in the conference. They won 8 in a row. They're 9-1 over their last 10. They're ranked ninth offensively, number one defensively, and their net rating is 1. And I think they're winning games by an average of 8 points, which is number one in the league. And then lastly, Saturday we play Portland, 21-33, 10th in the Western Conference. They lost 5, 3-7 over their last 10. We haven't played them this season. They're 20 in offense, 28 in defense, 25 net rating. I think they are negative 4.8. So they are, yeah, they're scoring 109 and they're giving up 114. So I have the Knicks going 1-3 over this stretch. I think even though the Knicks are playing better, Randle is playing better, Fournier is playing better, Mitch, other than last night's playing, better. RJ is still playing well. I just don't see how we come out of these next 4 games 2-2. But what's your thoughts?
I'm actually going 2-2.
Really?
Yeah. I want to say 3-1, but
Wow.
being Utah and Denver are back-to-back games, I think we lose one of them. It's gonna be a tough go at it though, man. Like, think about it. Utah fourth in the conference, 3-7. You say out of the last 10. I think
Mhm.
if you go even further span, they've had a losing record for even longer than the last 10 games, and they're still the fourth seed. You know what I mean? Like, I want to say
Right.
they lost like 11 or 14 or something, like some wild number, and they're still the fourth seed. That just goes to show what a great start they started the season
Sure. 11
with.
games over 500 still, right?
You know, it's nuts. So it's scary with them, but I think we squeeze out one of the two, either Utah or Denver. If I had to guess one, I'm gonna say Utah just because it's the first one,
Mhm.
and there's no attrition. And then I'm gonna say Denver we lose, Golden State we lose, and then Portland I think we win. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm going 2-2.
We're going 2-2. The only thing I would say is the Knicks' effort this past week was great, and they were 1-2. Oh, very good. Their effort was very good, and they were 1-2. I just want to. This is going to help me see where they are mentally. You go out, you play hard, 3 games in a row, you only win one. Are you going to revert back to your old ways of playing, Randall? Or are you still going to, is that going to be your baseline going forward? Win or lose, you're going to never have to question our effort, or for Randall, my effort again. We may lose, but the effort is going to be there for 48 minutes. Sometimes when you do that, you expect to get something out of it, which is why I wish they would have won that Lakers game just to get some momentum, just to see some benefits from their effort. Sometimes when you have a team that's mentally a little shaky and they play hard and you don't get the benefits, they revert back. So
Mm-hmm.
we're going to see. So I'm really looking forward to Monday's game to see what are their efforts going to be against Utah, to see where their heads are at. But I have the Knicks going 1-3. I have them beating Portland, who actually just made some change. So Pat, not Pat Beverly, Bledsoe, Bledsoe was
Mm-hmm.
traded there. He very well may be at the point guard spot by the time we meet with them. Covington is no longer there. Powell is no longer there. So we're going to get a lot of Anthony Simmons, a lot of McCollum, if McCollum hasn't been traded. And I would think Bledsoe would be at that point guard spot. Nurkic, there's been some rumblings about him, so he may or may not be there. But still, I think with their upheaval and the fact that they haven't been playing that well anyway, I expect the Knicks to get that game.
Eh,
And Utah is the next one to probably get. If they're going to get it, it would be the Utah game. Denver on a back-to-back, altitude, and Golden State. I don't see them unless Golden State wants to rest players. I got to be honest. I don't see it, but I see the Knicks going 1-3.
And you said
Um,
Portland's defense was ranked 28th,
yeah,
and they just lost like their two best defenders.
and Powell and Covington. Covington wasn't playing a lot, but
Okay.
he was
I
contributing.
mean, even still, who's a better defender than those two guys on that team?
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? So
yeah.
we should be able to mollywop them, like just through offense and their lack of defense. So
Yeah, yeah. 0-4. Somebody said 0-10 in February. If we don't make a trade and keep playing Kimba all these minutes. I don't think Kimba's playing a lot of minutes though. Um, I don't see the Knicks winning this road trip. The air is different in Utah as well, right? We're talking about you know, Denver. Um, yeah,
mm.
definitely. If you haven't already, hit that like button. Let me do that myself. Any last words?
Someone in the chat is saying Detroit is interested in Mitchell Robinson, and then
For who?
someone else said let me see if I can find it. Oh, if Detroit wants Mitch, I think we want a first round pick and power forward Sadiq Bey. But my question: Would you trade Mitch and Obi for Sadiq Bey in a first?
No,
No.
no. Would you? You think that's okay? That's an okay return?
I I like Mitch. I don't never want to trade Mitch, but Sadiq Bey. Only reason I wouldn't do it because I want to keep Mitch. But if Mitch is not in our long term plans for the future, then yes. If they know you know what I mean, they're not keeping him, they're not bringing him back, they're not extending him, whatever. I would do it because I think Sadiq Bey is a great defender, a great shooter. I think he could fill in a lot better than Obi is right now, production wise. He could really spell Randle for minutes. You know, the
But why do
problem
they
is
need all? Why they got to get so much though? We got to give up Mitch, and I don't. I mean, I like Sadiq Bey too, but I don't think he rocking on
well,
that level where we giving up Mitch and Obi for him in the first.
I, the reason I consider it because the first from Detroit is more valuable than you know what I mean of the first that we've been accumulating over the past couple of years. So a first from Detroit is potentially a lottery pick. I think that has more value whether we keep that pick or whether we use it in in a bigger trade. The only reason I have
Gotcha.
pause in making that
Gotcha.
particular move is Noel has been pretty much non-existent all year. Whether it's been him not playing because he's hurt or playing and just not really putting his stamp on a game so far. That's the only reason why I would have pause is because as good as Noel was last year, he's been out the rotation the majority of this year due to injury, COVID, and whatever else has been keeping him off the floor. So that's the only reason why I would have to sit down and think about it. But I really like
Gotcha.
Sadiq Bey. I think he could come in and just give us production immediately and backing up Randall.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if this works out, if that would even work out
Financially.
financially in a trade. But I just think for Mitch and Obi, you can get more than that.
Mm.
But I get what you're saying. But still, a first round pick is still another young guy, and no matter how great he is, he's still going to have to develop.
Oh no,
Right?
yeah. I when I say that pick, I look at that pick as value in a trade more than
to flip
value,
it.
more than value as the player that we're actually signing or drafting.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. I like, but see, Sadiq Bey is like a 3-4, right?
mm-hmm.
And you're saying, he could play behind, Randle. It's only but so if we keep Randle, it's only but so many minutes going to be available for him. But he could play the 3 as well, so that would help him get more minutes. But we got so many wing players as it is.
Yeah,
but
and then I mean, I think him in a small ball lineup with Randle at the 5 is a better option than Obi right now in the small ball lineup with Randle
because of his defense.
because of his defense.
Yeah, he a Villanova guy? Sadiq Bey?
I think
I
so.
believe so.
I'm pretty sure.
Help me out, Chad, if you know. I believe he is. I like those Villanova guys.
They play hard on defense.
Yeah, and they're smart and they're gritty. Yeah. All right. Shout out to the chat, everybody that was rocking with us today. Those that's going to be listening later on, really appreciate you. Drop those comments. Actually, if you're listening after the show, you can still engage. Just write your comments, down. I'll take a look at them. You could check me and Tony Crow out actually Wednesday on the crossover. I'll be back not this Monday, next week, Monday. Hopefully by that time, the Knicks would have upgraded the roster, not so much talent wise, but upgraded the roster with pieces that fit. We will see. So we'll have an opportunity to talk about that. Don't forget the NBA report with Ron and John from Still Knick Fans. That'll be Thursday. I know the Knicks play Thursday, so I'm not sure if they'll change the time, but watch out for that. Make sure your notifications are on. So whenever it drops, you'll get that notification. I'm not sure if Josh has a show, The Controversy, this week, but again, if you subscribe and you hit that notification button, we'll let you know if Josh actually has a show. Be easy, Knick family. I'm out.